All right, welcome in, everyone. Bill Rohland with you here live at Glory Days in Falls Church for the Kim English Coaches Show, our season wrap-up. We want to thank everybody for joining us here on our YouTube pages as well. Coach, obviously, we appreciate you coming out as we finish off the Coaches Show for this season, kind of the Ncaa Tournament wrap-up, if you will. Before we get to all the off-season stuff we got going on, roster changes and everything else, I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of take a look back at the season and start with you personally. Your first year as a head coach, what were some of the things that you learned about yourself, about how to be a coach during this entire full year?
It was a lot of lessons learned, and we've been doing diagnostics of the season, rather, an inventory of a lot of decisions and moves all the way back to this time last year, through the summer, through the fall, through the non-con, and learned a ton. It's kind of scary. I said this the other night, looking back on the season, what I didn't know, November 7th, 9th against Stony Brook, to now. So it's great. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of great things, a lot of things, say I wish I would have done differently. You can call them losses, but definitely a lot of lessons learned. And really proud of our guys. To a man, there was tremendous growth this season and the entire program. Even guys that didn't quite play to the standard which we expected, right? Like, Davon Cooper, right? I really wanted a lot more out of him. And as I went back, I've watched all the games again and talking to our medical team and going back to watch him at Moorhead, my view of his season actually switched, right? This is the first, Coop had back surgery when he was a young player at Moorhead. This was the first season of his college career he didn't miss a game to injury, right? Like, that's improvement. When he came here, he literally didn't have a left calf muscle. They didn't lift him at Moorhead post his surgery. His body has gotten better, and I was like, he ended up shooting 40% from three, playing in a better league than the Ohio Valley, so we've found some positives as we've starting to look at individual things and collectively as a group.
What's the one thing when you look back on the season that now that you've kind of done the diagnostic on it, that was more difficult than you thought it would be necessarily when you started? Is there one thing, or there may be more than one?
It would be some scheduling stuff. Scheduling is the second most important thing we do, but behind recruiting. Our Maryland game, I think, was supposed to be a day or two earlier in the week instead of on a Wednesday. We could have, but I really, really, really wanted that Maryland game because of the opportunity that it was. Knowing that we had James Madison on that Friday,
right,
playing Maryland on a Wednesday, James Madison on a Friday with 3 games in 3 days in South Dakota may have been a lot at that juncture of the season. So, and again, learning. It was something I thought that we could withstand, and it wasn't far off, right? James Madison was a 3-point game. Washington was a 3-point game. South Dakota State was a 4-point game. It wasn't far off, but just at that juncture of the season, new program, new coaches, new players, everyone's new to each other. Our habits weren't there yet. And, it was some unfortunate things throughout the season where our habits just never got to the level where they needed to be, ball security-wise and defensively.
Well, it had to be difficult at times, too, when you have a couple weeks, obviously, there in December for the exam break, which is always going to be there. And then you get to play one game, and then you got another couple weeks because of COVID. And then you get into January, and then you got another pause because of COVID. I mean, all those things.
I don't want to at all, split up here and make excuses. There are no excuses.
It's not excuses. It's reasons, though, Coach.
They are reasons. I thought that we had got over the hump. And I was so proud of our guys when we shook off that 5-game losing streak and beat a Navy team without our starting point guard,
right,
or Ronnie Polite. We didn't have X or Ronnie. That win, I thought, showed a lot about our group. And then we went and beat Georgia. And then we came back and beat American. I thought we were kind of starting to get on a little bit of a groove. The Coppin State game got canceled. And,
you had the roller coaster thing, because people don't
know,
remember.
and
You're supposed to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You get there,
Yeah.
you're 3 hours before, and then COVID cancels that game.
It's not, and it will never be. It will never be about trying to schedule 20 wins. Right? There are coaches that do that. There are coaches that can make their non-conference schedule where they can pretty much get to what they need to get to 500 in the league. They got 20 wins. It looks good. We want to try to be an at-large team in the NCAA tournament. So we lose to Coppin State. What do? We go schedule Wisconsin and Kansas. So you can look at record, but the truth is our finish in KenPom was the best it's been in the last decade at Mason.
Right.
So that's showing you we're scheduling to try to be a team that can dance with an at-large bid in March. And, with our finish, I think we finished 112, 113 in the net, 113 in KenPom. With some of those losses, those close losses being wins, we're in the mix. We're in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, you guys start off conference play 4-1. The one loss was a one-possession game at GW without Josh. You had a couple other those, the double overtime loss to St. Louis at home. I mean, there's only 3, 4, 5 games. If one bounce goes another way, you guys are probably in the top 4 or 5 in the conference at that point.
And we don't get to play Duquesne or Rhode Island. Rhode Island at home, Duquesne on the road.
Right.
But again, no excuses. We're going to perform. It's any shortcomings falls on me, falls on us.
All right, so let's look. Despite the disappointing end, you guys didn't end up in the NCAA tournament, which obviously is always the goal. There is a lot to look back on, and I think be proud of this team. It starts with, we already talked about that Maryland game, winning for the first time as a program against a ranked team on the road. Victories against Richmond, who won a game in the NCAA tournament. You got a victory against a team that's still playing in the NIT semifinals in St. Bonaventure. So you look back, as the season as a whole may have been overall a disappointment if you want to look at the record of how it finished, but there were individual games that you had to be proud with the way the guys responded.
Yeah, I mean, Dayton was the first team out of the tournament. Finished second in our league. That was a really good win. St. Louis, I mean, one bounce, double overtime loss. Richmond, I mean, we're obviously without Josh, we still had a wide open layup to sweep Richmond. We are excited about the trajectory of the program, the improvement, the continuing roster development, the guys that we're going to bring in, we're really excited about, the guys that we have, the guys that are returning. As we're, scheduling, we're going to be aggressive again, and first and foremost, try to build a schedule that gives us a chance to be in that large team, a schedule that prepares us for a really good league, and a league that is getting better with the coaches that have been added, Archie Miller, Frank Martin, the addition of Loyola Chicago. Yep. So, preparation for the league, and lastly, to hopefully give our fans a schedule that they can be excited about. Try to get good opponents to come in to Eagle Bank Arena and give you some fun games to hopefully travel to or watch on TV.
That was a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and jump to it right now. The schedule for next season, obviously the Virgin Islands tournament. Can you talk about any of the other games that are out there? Or
it's all in the makes. It's everyone's so locked into recruiting right now. No one's wanting to talk scheduling, and we'll have a good roster. So and we were 2-1 in our road biggies, if you will, Georgia, Maryland, at Kansas. We win 2 of those games and lose to Kansas by 9. So it's hard to get those games because teams don't want to play, quite honestly.
Are you finding that especially when you go to Maryland and you go down to Georgia? Now, neither one of those teams had seasons that they were expecting to have, but still, it's road wins over Power Fives.
Yeah, I mean, we stay away from the Power 5 thing because you're excluding Villanova, right? But Georgia beat Alabama. Maryland beat Illinois. Maryland had some really solid wins this season. They beat Ohio State, a tournament team. So no, it is. But scheduling evolves. It'll be wrapped up around football season. but everyone's locked into getting players right now via the portal or high school kids, and we'll kind of focus in on scheduling and around June or July.
Going back to some of the positives of this past season, obviously, and we talked about him just about every show, it seemed like Josh Oduro ends up being named first team All A-10, first Mason men's basketball player since we've gone to the A-10 to be first team player. Obviously was in the Player of the Year mix. He's coming back next year. How exciting is it to have a guy like him coming back and just where he was from last year until now?
Yeah, it's funny, as we're recruiting players, we're just talking about the development of Josh and showing his numbers previously and to his production now. And, he entered his name into the NBA draft today. He's going to go through that process, work out for teams, get feedback. All 30 teams will tell him exactly where he is in their draft range right now. And, I did it after my third year of college, and it really gave me focus going into my last year. That ended up being my draft year. Couldn't ask for a better leader. And he's a leader on a team with a lot of old guys. We'll have multiple 22, 23, 12, a 24-year-old on next season's team. He's the best. He's the best. You couldn't ask for a better best player.
Is this him going and declaring for the draft more of a fact-finding mission? I know nowadays it's different. You can declare and come back. Yeah. Is your expectation is that's kind of where Josh is? It's just finding out where he is?
It with everything he can do. I want him to go and work out for the Wizards or the Celtics and absolutely kill it. And they say, you're the guy we're taking right now.
Right.
But if that's not the resounding case, and he'll get the feedback and it's honest, it's a very valuable tool for underclassmen, what they do. The NBA wants less guys to go undrafted.
Right.
It's sad. Every year after that 60th pick is called, you see the list of underclassmen guys that went undrafted and could have went back to college. So they're trying to help in that process. Give these guys the information so that they can make the best decision for them. If Josh hears first round, then he ain't coming back.
Right.
And if he doesn't, which is fine, which a lot of players have done, which Obi Toppin did.
Right.
And that's honestly what I like in Josh's situation to be. Maybe not a top 5 pick next season, but I think he is absolutely will be a draft pick.
All right, before we get to the offseason and your workouts and everything else that's coming up, let's talk a little bit about this year's NCAA tournament. Lots of good stuff. Obviously, the Final Four is set, but a lot of conversation. The big name, obviously, was St. Peter's. How much fun was it watching that run to the Elite Eight for them?
Really cool. Really cool. And I know it's really cool for Mason fans to see what I feel like Mason started like the real Cinderella run, in 2006. And obviously, UMBC winning one game, but you think like Mason led to the Florida Gulf Coast and Loyola Chicago and even Butler. Yeah. I feel like Mason was the first true Cinderella that didn't just win one game, that got all the way there. So it's cool kind of to relive that as Mason people now every season. And then with Coach Larinaga going to the Elite Eight this season was kind of cool to see those guys, Caputo and the guys that have Mason blood in them. But no, I'm super excited and happy for Shaheen. He was a McDonald's All-American that had a lot of success as a player at Seton Hall. And it just goes to show you, man, guards and toughness. Good guards and toughness. It wins always, but especially in March.
Jackie, who's here and is actually a current student athlete at Mason, wants to know, Mason's run or St. Peter's run more impressive?
Ooh.
Mason went one game farther, but St. Peter's
Mason
is a 15.
Getting to the Final Four is obviously, it gives it a notch up. But what I think people don't realize about St. Peter's run and what makes it really a really, really cool story is like, George Mason it has a history, right? It's in a great place. Eagle Bank Arena is awesome, but St. Peter's infrastructure, it's in the bottom third of Division I basketball. And someone wrote a long thread. A former St. Peter's staffer did like a tweet thread just talking about how tough of a job St. Peter's is, right? Like their offices were on the top floor of their arena, and it rained and water leaked through, so coaches were like sitting in 2 centimeters of water. They didn't know the start date of practice, so like the rec had it in like their first day of they couldn't practice in their own gym. They had to go to like a local church, and so it's a lot of things that make it tough. I'm biased, so I'll say Mason's run is more impressive, but that was pretty impressive what they did to beat Kentucky, Murray State, and Purdue. Incredible.
Ended up with a pretty blue blood Final Four. Carolina, Duke, obviously that's going to be ad nauseum all over the TV this week since they have to play each other for the first time in the Ncaa Tournament. And Kansas and Villanova on the other side. So with all the craziness of the upsets and everything else, you end up with 4 programs that probably over the last 15, 20 years, you could probably say four of the best 5 or 6 programs in the nation.
For sure, 3 of the best programs ever. And I'd say Villanova, the best program in America in the last decade. They are the standard. The standard of things that we try to do. We emphasize. I'm friends with some guys on their staff. The way they play, physical, strong, sound, fundamental offensive basketball, and tough, gritty, stingy defense. Villanova is the standard. Kansas right there. Duke, North Carolina, obviously historically. Best players, best tradition. But a really good group of 4.
Obviously, you got the up-close look at Kansas this year. In looking at these teams, do you feel like they, not necessarily the favorite, I think that any of them could win, but do you feel like Kansas may be the best of the 4 if you had to break it down?
Honestly, I could make a very sound, solid case for all 4. Obviously, great coaching. Bill Self is a phenomenal. Kansas does not have.
This is hard for you to say as a Missouri guy, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm past. I really don't. Again, it's fine. Like I never got into the whole rivalry thing, but Kansas does not have the best talent of that group. You talk McDonald's All-Americans. You talk, first-round draft picks.
Would you say Duke, as far as talent, the best talent of the 4?
Yeah. As far as like prospects, yeah, probably the most future NBA players, yes. But just because Villanova guys aren't like Colin Gillespie may be the best of any of him and Paulo Banchero, talent and production. The most productive, Villanova, Kansas. The most talented, maybe North Carolina. The most upside is the Duke guys. It's a lot of different ways you can spell talent, but what I'm saying is Coach Self is really, really good because those guys weren't surefire, bona fide college players, future NBA guys out of high school. Coach Self made those guys into that. It was kind of a joke going into the Kansas game with our guys. I said, guys, I'm telling you, like watching them on film, I would take you guys over them. I said, I think we're better, like position by position. I think we had a better team than Kansas. And I told him, I said, the only difference is they got a Hall of Famer, y'all got me. that was so I was like, we got to give it our all. But maybe I'll get that one day.
You've got to have a lot of respect, I would imagine. I don't know if you've ever met Hubert Davis or not, but knowing a guy, granted, he's taking over a North Carolina program that was left in pretty good hands, but still a first-year coach who partway through the season, there was a lot of talk that they weren't going to even make the tournament, and now you look up and here he is playing in the last weekend.
They had a rough 2-game stretch. They lost to Miami by 30. They lost to Wake Forest by 20 in back-to-back games. Since then, I think they went 16-3.
Yeah.
It is obviously, kudos to him, obviously to do what he's done to get that. But it's something to be said. When you think of Hubert Davis, you think of Todd Golden, you think of Drew Valentine. You think of the head coaches that got to take over a program that they were there for.
Right.
It's different. It's not a true first-year head coach experience. You know those guys. You know those players. You probably recruited them. The culture, the system, the standards are already set. When you're taking over something different, it is, and I mean, sometimes in cases when a coach got let go,
right,
it's a completely different deal.
Well, there's a reason the coach left in a lot of cases.
A lot of times, no, but kudos to him. He's done a great job. He's done a great job. I watched them lose by 20 to Tennessee earlier this season. I mean, got beat bad. It was never a game. So for him to do what he's done, but that stretch, the 30-pointer to Miami, the 20-point to Wake Forest, I don't know what happened at that moment. They switched, and they started playing to their potential. I mean, Armando Baycock, Brady Manick, R.J. Davis, Caleb Love, Leaky Black, they have incredible talent. I mean, I was watching them, and Kerwin Walton, was a five-star kid out of Minnesota. It's like riding a bench.
Right.
So he's doing a really
Harris,
good
who
job.
played here at PVI. Yeah. All right, before we move on, I want to remind everyone, ticket deposits for the 2022-23 season gets underway this Friday, April 1st. So anyone who places a deposit between April 1st and April 8th, you're also going to receive 2 complimentary single-game tickets to use during the upcoming season. Also, you'll be entered to win one of 5 Adidas apparel items. You can call the Mason Ticket Office at 703-993-3270 or visit gomason.com for more details. Also, of course, I want to thank our sponsors. The George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English, presented by Essen Mortgage Company. Essen Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender company, NMLS 3116, and of course, Glory Days Grill, which we are at here live in Falls Church. All right, Coach, there's been a lot of fans in watching the NCAA tournament, and I've been sitting there with friends of mine, and it's maddening for the constant parade to the monitor over and over and over again. Does it bother you as a coach when it gets down to that, or is that something that you guys have kind of accepted? Because it seems to just suddenly stop the flow, and it just doesn't feel like it's a good thing. I mean, look, we're college basketball fans. We're going to watch regardless, but the average fan tuning in, I imagine, throws up their hands and says, what is this? I
mean, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. And at that stage, and always, I mean, every game matters. To us, you don't want to lose games because of a mistake, a misstep, a miscue, and they happen all throughout the game, but especially at that juncture when you're talking about playing for it all, playing for the national championship, you're seizing a loss, meaning your season ending, you got to get it right. And those officials, the list of 11, really good crew, we had a lot of the guys this season, Joe Lindsay, Terry Oglesby, we had some guys that are moving on. Roger Ayers, obviously a consummate professional. Jeff Anderson, Bert Smith. Those guys are trying to move on. They're trying to get on to the next round. So you got to get it right. I know it's strong, but honestly, coaches don't mind because it's a free timeout. I try not to be petty about it. Like, if I see the ball clearly went off of our guy, some coaches will say, oh, look at it, I don't do that because I don't ever want to muddy up the integrity of the game. I've told officials, yeah, it was off us, or hip foot was on the line. I do want to get it moving. I don't want to ever, hinder the integrity of the game.
Is there anything in the game of college basketball that you'd like to see changed, revamped, adjusted, tweaked, or would it be to go to quarters like they have in the NBA and what the women's game has gone to? Would you move on a timeout late in the game to be able to move it up to half court like they can do in the NBA and now in the women's games? Any tweaks that you see that would improve the game?
Yeah, I'd like to see the flopping, officiated a little better. I trust the rules committee. Coach Barnes, Coach Boyle are both on the rules committee. I trust those guys. There's nothing that I'm
do you like when you talk about the flop warning? Do you like when a play will happen, the guy flops, they don't stop the play, they wait till the next whistle to then give the warning? Are you okay with that, or would you like to see them immediately stop the play, give the warning, and then pick it up?
Well, they stop it after it's
right.
I'm fine with the way they stop
how they do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your off-season workouts. I know you guys had some today, and getting things. I know fans are excited about these guys getting back in the gym and want to keep up with what's going on. How did workouts go?
It was
today?
good. Today was our first time officially. Guys have been in the gym since. They took a few days off. We had spring break after our disappointing loss in the conference tournament, and we had another week off, so 2 weeks to completely get away from me, at least as far as on the court. But they were in there with each other, grad assistants, coaches, voluntary. They were playing pickup. Today was the first time we did a structural work. It was 8 guys, 6 scholarship players, 1 walk-on, and Deshaun Schwartz joined, so we had 8 guys today. It was good. Guys got after it, competed. You know, it was a lot of skill, a lot of competition.
You talk about Deshaun joining. Have you talked to him about what's his future looking like? What are his plans now post?
Yeah, he's going to go, you know, he just settled on an agent. He is going to go and compete in the Reese's senior game in New Orleans at the Final Four. He's going to compete in a 3-on-3 tournament at the Final Four. And we're hoping, I think he has a pretty good shot to get invited to the Portsmouth Invitational in Portsmouth, Virginia. He got votes from all 30 NBA teams that they wanted to see him there. Unfortunately, they're inviting 4th-year seniors and 5th-year seniors. So he's going against 2 senior classes. So even the guys like Devin Cooper, someone who has an opportunity to come back for another season, they still invited those guys. So hopefully once those guys decline, once the seniors that are, I don't know, surefire NBA draft picks, like my year it was like Draymond Green, or Tyler Zeller. They were invited. They didn't go because they knew they were going to be high draft picks. Once those guys, that minutia gets settled out, hopefully he'll get a formal invite, and that'll be great for him to start his pro process.
And even if it doesn't work out for him NBA-wise,
he'll make
he'll
make a lot of money playing
in Europe. Yeah,
he'll make a lot of money.
Great for him.
For a long time.
Peyton is here in the audience, and we touched on it a little bit. Also, another current student athlete, so we appreciate them coming out and supporting the basketball team. Wants to know more about Devin Cooper and what you're looking forward to in regards to him next year. We touched on it a little bit, but can you expand a little bit for Peyton about the Coops game?
Season. You know, again, I would talk about how, you know, when I looked at the silver lining of the good things about Coops season, but we had meetings with every player after our last game. And, you know, it was simply put, he wasn't ready. You know, he wasn't ready to embark on a professional journey. And this offseason, and before we even worry about next season, we're going to spend this offseason selfishly getting him ready to be a pro, which will help George Mason and him as a collegian, but it's trimming his body fat. It's getting, I mean, Josh's body fat went down. I think he went from like, Josh went from like 16 to like, he went from like 23 to 9%. Right. He made a crazy jump. It's Coop taking that jump, getting his cardio right, and getting his habits better. His habits, his eating habits, his sleeping habits, his hydration habits, so that he's a better version of himself on the court. You know, hopefully his minutes go down. I thought 36 was high. I think that'll go down to like 29. And I think we'll get a slimmer, leaner, better in shape, more productive Coop. Because him not being in the best shape, honestly, it limited him to just be a shooter. He's a great shooter, but you know he's a lot more of a player than he showed this season. Defensively, he'll be able to post more, rebound more, a better driver, but a better defender. You know, most importantly, you know our last home game, another disappointing loss to UMass. I kind of pulled him to the side, and I won't name the kid's name, but one of UMass's slower-footed players took him right to the rim and made a one-on-one layup. And I pulled Coop aside, like away from the timeout, and I just said straight up, Coop, if you can't guard him, you have no chance of being a pro. And that reality really set into that moment. Like he's gonna really, this will be the best summer of his life, getting right, so he can be a dominant, you know, 6-year senior next year.
Let's talk about some of the other guys that are staying too. Ronnie Polite struggled with injuries in his career. What's ahead? What'd you talk to him about for his summer and what he needs to do?
Getting his body right, getting his lower body right so that he can compete every day at a high level so that he's ready to play in games. He played this season, I don't know at what percentage, but it is what I grew to love about him. Is when I look at him and even that last game against Fordham, against American, against Georgia, even when I see him not at his best, he's still going. He wants to go. We're going to spend time getting his lower body right. He's very narrow, and getting his jump shot right. So I think he can really help us at the point guard position next season, along with Devin Dinkins. We're going to have some great competition at all spots next season.
Yeah, let's talk about the freshmen that are coming in. Obviously, Justin had joined the team during the season, but he'll be a freshman for all intents and purposes coming up in the fall. And Devin Dinkins, another local product that's coming in. Talk to me about those two guys and what the jump for them. And again, Fernandez has a little bit of a head start, but the jump for them going from high school to college sometimes is the biggest jump that they make.
Yeah, it's the hardest. It'll be the hardest adjustment in your life. I mean, it's even bigger than going from college to the league. That's just a speed pickup. But the mix of speed and physicality and attention to detail, their heads spin for about the first 3 weeks of the summer. Really happy that Justin got to get that out of the way. He got the head spinning, and he came into the middle of conference season, so I was reluctant, we even couldn't, integrate him into practices because a high school kid could get hurt, playing with these men. Right. It'll be good for Devin to get up here, late spring and summer and start playing a pickup with our guys. But the one thing about Justin and Devin both, which always will give any player a chance, is they can shoot the ball. Justin can shoot it, and he's a ridiculous athlete. So really excited about adding those two guys. Those are our two top targets. With the landscape of the portal and what transfer recruitment is, we feel really good about what we'll be able to get out of the portal every offseason. It allows us to really be selective in who we target in high school recruitment.
Ticket Gaines, what's his summer going to look like?
He a lot like Coop. I was disappointed in the way he ended this season. But you peel back the layers, you do the diagnostics of it, you see that a 1 point a game, 3 minute a game guy at Tennessee for 2 seasons was playing 30+ minutes. Right. So,
hard 30 minutes.
Yeah, for the first half of the season, I'll say that. I think they were less hard towards the end. But maybe that was a byproduct of how many minutes he was playing. He was averaging 12 and 8. He went from averaging nothing to averaging 12 and 8. Right. He went from, I remember early in the season, people were closing out to him like he couldn't shoot because that's what they thought from what his numbers at Tennessee said. So not only did he go from not playing a lot to playing a lot, he also got from being not game planned against to being game planned for. Right. And his production dropped. It's continuing to get his body right. It's to get him playing on the wing more than at the 4. We're going to get a physical specimen in there to play with Josh some. And Ticket can still slide there some in a pinch. It gives us an advantage offensively to be able to stretch the floor out. But getting his body right, getting his leadership quality right, and qualities right, but just getting his armor, both mentally and physically more prepared to play for longer stretches.
Blake Jones.
The exact same thing I just said about Ticket. Blake is one of our smartest players. I'd get done a game and look at the box score, and Blake Jones would be leading our team in plus minus. His biggest thing this summer is to get his body right. Get his foot speed ready to be able to so that he can show his best his offensive attributes. He's a much better shooter than the numbers say. He had a basket in our last game, a right-hand hook shot over one of Fordham's big, which was a very encouraging play for what he had been showing.
Did you find that for him, and we just talked about the jump that freshmen have to make in their first year, he, because of being an international student, couldn't get here in the summer to kind of start. Did you notice that he was a little behind the guys that may have showed up in, say, May, June to get going?
Yeah, he came a little late. He came July. So, yeah, he didn't get the full summer. But the biggest jump is freshman to sophomore.
Okay.
Now you've seen it. You know exactly what to expect. You know now that, in my opinion, if you don't see the jump then, there could be some problems. You know, the freshman to sophomore jump is the biggest.
I guess
jump.
Jump wasn't the right word. The adjustment that he had to make from coming where he was playing in Australia to then playing the college game.
Different it's a different game. It's even different from the high school game. It's a different, even though he played some pro ball in the NBL in Australia. It's just different. You know, I was probably on him the hardest today in the workout because my sense of urgency has gone to a level that they've never seen. It's a level I've never seen. We don't have time. We don't have time anymore to like coddle along. Right. You know, we're getting to it. You know, so it's the improvements need to be seen daily.
All right, last one, Malik Henry.
You know, just continuing to get better. You know, he's a freak athlete. He can jump and dunk. It's time for Malik to put it all together. You know, how long do you wait for potential? How long do you wait for potential? How long is potential there until it's just not production anymore? So, you know, the ball's in his court. You know, we had very hard conversations with every single player after the season of what the expectations are individually, what the program expectations are, and it's known that it ain't met. It wasn't met. You know, we're 14 and 16, 7 and 9 is who we are, and it's unacceptable. It won't be tolerated, and so everyone, to a man, me starting with me, looking in the mirror, everyone in our program, all the way down to Malik, has to get a lot better.
All right, before we move on to what to expect here coming up in the fall, I want to again remind everyone, ticket deposits for the upcoming season. You can start with that on this Friday, April 1st, and anyone who puts a deposit down between April 1st and April 8th will also receive 2 complimentary single-game tickets to use during the upcoming season. You'll also be entered to win one of 5 Adidas apparel items as well. Call the Mason Ticket Office at 703-993-3270 or visit gomason.com for more details. Also, of course, want to thank our sponsors, George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Kim English, presented by SN Mortgage Company. SN Mortgage Company, start your journey home today. Security National Mortgage Company is an equal housing lender company, NMLS 3116.
If you guys don't buy season tickets, do you guys want to see Tyler? Do you guys want to see who you don't want knocking on your door? You guys, you want to come up here and get on? You want it? You sure? You want to turn the camera around? No? Okay. All right. You don't want to see him get angry.
So yes, please call. You were just talking about the transfer portal, and I think, like I said, it's up to 900 names now. That's just become a reality of college basketball. Is there's going to be 1,000 kids or more. I think last year was 1,200 kids that entered their name in the portal. Now some kids come back, and that's fine. How different though is it to recruit the portal as opposed to recruiting high school kids? It's
like microwave recruiting, you know, because if it's a new kid, if it's a new prospect that you just seen, you saw his numbers, you've seen the video, the recruitment is different because you have to do a quick study of that kid, but the relationship isn't there. A lot of times they're pre-existing relationships, which makes the recruiting process a lot easier because I can't say his name, but we just got a portal commitment after 12 hours of being in the portal. There's a previous relationship there that really helps with the get to know you phase. High school recruitment, I recruited Kenny Chandler at Tennessee for 2 years.
Right.
You know, I was recruiting him since he was a sophomore. You know, so that recruiting process is different. You know when the time to commit. everyone's timeline is different.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's a lot harder to squeeze kids, as you like to say, in the recruiting process because there's such a plethora of options. I actually don't think it's what's best for our student athletes. I especially don't think it's what's best for student athletes who come from underrepresented populations. When a young man or young woman transfers school to school, Division I institution to Division I institution, all of those credits don't transfer over.
Right.
You know? So you're going, let's say you spend 2 years at one place, and then you transfer to another place your third year. But let's say 15 of your credits didn't make the transfer over. You not having to sit out now means you're going to play your third year and be in classes, still 15 credits short. Right. You're going to play your next year, take your classes, probably still be 15 credits short, and now you've now exhausted your eligibility short of your graduation requirement. So we're now sending student athletes out into the workforce, you know, maybe not, without degrees.
Right.
They're going to go on to go be pro without degrees. So I don't think it's what's best for some students, but it's what we have. And it is free agency, and coaches are going to take advantage of it. Players can take advantage of it. And I think I'm all about player empowerment. If it's what the players want, I think it's great for them. I wish every single player, like any player that's ever put on our jersey, is always a member of our program. We have some guys that are exploring their opportunities to go elsewhere. They're always welcome to come back here. I was texting with Jordan Miller the other night, wishing him congrats on a great season. He knows when he comes back to Loudoun County, our gym is open. You know, because if you've ever put the jersey on, you're always a part of what we want to do. But you know, I never try to stop a kid. I never will. I think whatever you want to do is great and good for you.
Well, I mean, ultimately, it's got to be their decision, their life to live. So
Absolutely.
You don't want to try to necessarily talk them out of something. If their head's not here, then maybe it needs to be somewhere else.
And sometimes it's just not a great fit. You know, it's
right.
and again, it's not wrong. They have that opportunity, and there's 357 other Division I schools, and there's a lot of prospects out there for us to go fill those spots with. But it's yeah.
That leads me to another question. Brian is here and wants to know what positions you're focusing on filling with the remaining open roster spots, and what differences in play style, if any, should we expect next year?
There won't be any differences
4
in
open
play
scholarships now?
3, yeah.
3, okay.
We won't. There won't be any differences in play styles. We'll play the same way. You know, we'll have more depth. Well, we will have more depth. That is a fact, Jack. So I guess you could say we'll extend ourselves in the full court defensively a little bit more. We'll have some other players that can post up besides Josh to get. You know, I want to get more paint production. You know, I like the threes we shot. You know, we shot the ball well from 3. It helped us. We want more paint production.
School record for made threes. You can't complain about that. And
Yeah.
had a good
Good clip
as well.
And
so.
we didn't play 2 games. You know,
Right,
so
right.
we're targeting the point guard position very aggressively. We're targeting power forward position very aggressively, and we'll have 1 spot left, and trying to figure out what's best. Is it a young high school wing, you know, to develop, maybe not play that much but grow? Is it another physical 5? I have a Zoom tonight at 8:30 that I got to get out of here with the physical, athletic high school big man. But you talk about lessons. The one thing that we couldn't do this season, and it left me with a pit in my stomach every day leaving practices. We didn't get to hook it up the level that I'm used to, because we had so many preseason injuries of guys out. And the guys that were left were sadly Coop, Deshaun, and Josh. You know, the guys that unfortunately didn't need the
extra reps.
Extra. So I was kind of protecting them in the preseason more than I'd like to. So we're going to have incredible depth at every single position, and we will have very, very, very competitive practices where every single position will be earned, every spot.
You talk about the portal recruiting being kind of like microwave recruiting. When you have coaching changes, and it happens at every level, P5s all the way down, whether a coach gets fired or moves up or whatever, you have kids that decommit, the high school kids coming in. I imagine that's a hard thing to do unless you were in recruiting him early. It'd be a hard thing to do, just pick up the phone and say, hey, I saw you're not going to X school anymore. We're interested. We have a spot available at the point guard position, or we'd like to develop a wing. That's probably a hard thing to do with a high school kid who just opened it up. Well, just because you talked about having a relationship with the high school kids.
Well, it just ends up being the same thing it is with the transfer portal.
Okay.
It's just the exact same thing. You know, we see you're open, we like you. I was recruiting you at Tennessee. You know, I love your game. We saw you a lot this summer. We loved your game. Look, here's what we said about. Look at our database. This is what we said about you on July 2nd in Spartanburg, South Carolina on court 4. This is what we said about you back then, man. We love your game. You know, the kid that we're recruiting now, I recruited at Tennessee. And honestly, I kind of forgot about him when I got here. It was true. I was recruiting him at Tennessee. He had heavy high major recruitment. Tennessee, Big Ten schools. And I absolutely love this kid. I get here and, you know, it's a whirlwind. I wasn't thinking about him. I thought he may have been a little bit out of our reach. You know, he's a Big Ten country kid. And I'm just scrolling through Twitter the other day and I see his name popped up with an offer from a school that we can beat. And I'm like, yo, we need to reach out to this high school senior. And turns out, you know, a lot of the schools that we're recruiting them, those coaches, Big Ten coaches, Big East coaches, you know, they had gotten fired.
Right.
You know, his recruitment was like Arizona, it was Marquette, Minnesota. It was places and programs that had coaching changes.
Right.
I left Tennessee, who was recruiting, so his recruitment kind of fell off and he was available. So how you get into these recruiting, we're recruiting a kid now, a transfer kid that I recruited 6 years ago at Tulsa. As a high school junior, I loved him. I went and found a report I wrote about him way back when and showed it to him. You know, so how you get involved with these recruiting battles, it's no right way. In the portal, it's every single situation is different.
When you get into the summer and it's getting back, I assume almost to normal like it was pre-COVID, where you're having to go to these events, Vegas, Atlanta, Chicago, wherever all these places are. How do you divide up who's going where with you know, Nate and Dennis and all these? How do you determine who's going to go see what kid?
First we get it's hardest for me, sadly. You know, I used to, as an assistant coach, I'd usually pick the place with the best players and just sit.
So you can take all the credit, right?
I like watching good players, and I just would sit down and not move. You know, but you know now, and especially being a young head coach, the value is my energy and involvement in the recruiting process. So I'm the one that's having to fly around from city to city to city, you know, and see a lot of the kids. Those guys ended up spotting up in one place. And I'm doing all the moving. But, you know, we sit down. First, we look at the schedules, seeing what kids are playing where. And we usually have one coach stay at one place for one time. The other two assistants will probably flip-flop to see multiple kids. Right. And I will usually try to see all 3 locations, you know, so other schools can't say, the head coach wasn't even there to see you, man. They don't really love you. Right. They can never say that to us. And it also helps getting cross evals.
Well, so that's going to be my next question. What's the cross check like for that? Will it be, you know, Coach Simpkins sees a kid, will he then ask you to come cross check, or will he say, hey Nate, come see this kid? And
everyone cross checks with eyes. We have a group chat here where, you know, only 4 coaches can be on the road at a time. when we're out seeing a kid, if we like a kid, we just simply send the name to our troop text, the guys that are back on campus. It was Ike Tate, Matt Palumbo, IJ Poole, TJ Graham. Those guys will do their internet digging on the kid to look at his social media, video. They'll cut up tape they can also see the game. We pay for services where we can live stream the games. So Matt and Ike will make an edit. I get it in my room. I'll sit. So if I'm in Chicago, Simp likes a kid in Dallas, I'll get back to my room that night, watch the kid from Dallas. If he's good enough, I'll get on a plane the next day, go to Dallas. And that's how it all works.
Well, it seems like then, I think a lot of people don't understand exactly what everything that goes into it. They think you go to the Peach Jam or the Vegas Showcase, you sit, you watch, you got your Mason gear on, you see a kid, you keep in contact with them. But it really is an entire system and network to get all of that involved in, just to get a kid, probably maybe to take a visit, let alone sign.
Yeah, getting a kid on campus is huge. If you get a kid on campus, that's really good. You know, that's why recruiting during the pandemic was so difficult. But yeah, it's for 50 kids, right? It's 50 kids, you know, on average of 1.5 parent per kid, an AAU coach, a high school coach. It's surrounding every single one of those kids, disseminating information to them, and continuing to learn about them, you know, their games and who they are as people. You know, you want to know everything you can about a kid that you're bringing into your program, because, you know, us, you know, it's not just us trying to convince them. We think we have a pretty good sell here. We're pretty selective about who we truly target. Interest is one thing, but offers and who we bring to our campus to meet our players, we bring into our family, bring into our gym. You know, we feel like it's pretty sacred. You know, if you put this jersey on, it means something.
It's interesting you mentioned in that, going through everything, social media aspect of it, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Yeah. Do you still find, because I'm always fascinated by this, because I feel like these kids have now, to the point that they've grown up with Twitter and everything else, that they should know everybody's paying attention to what's going out there. Well, that's the question. Do you still find that you're like, I don't know if that should be out there right now for this poor 15, 16-year-old kid?
I was at, Coach Felton is not the most technology savvy on our staff, but I was at Tulsa, and I was sitting at a table like this in a tournament in Atlanta, and I'm just sitting here. We have like a break in game, so I'm just eating my lunch. And lunch is really bad at these tournaments. It's like potato chips and like hot dogs. Yeah. And I got to the gym at like 8 a.m. and I'm there till like 11 p.m. And I'm just sitting here having lunch, and Coach Felton sends a name to our staff text.
He was with you in Tulsa.
He was with me at Tulsa.
May not know that.
He's our associate head coach, and he sends this kid's name. This kid's from Cleveland. And I just look at his name, and I just get on my phone. I go to Twitter. I typed in this kid's name. This kid's Twitter bio was the most vile and grotesque thing I've ever seen. It was vulgar, profanity laced. And I just took a break from my lunch. I just took a screenshot. I texted it to the staff text, and I got back to my lunch, and Coach Felton's name buzzed up again, and he said, "Well, that was the quickest recruitment in the history of recruiting." So, yeah, sometimes they don't know. We're always watching. Even our guys to the next level. NBA teams have quote-unquote burner accounts. You know, accounts that aren't necessarily attributed to their names, but they're watching what you do, every single thing you do, and it's there forever. We tell our guys, you post it on Twitter, you post it on Instagram, imagine you have a microphone in front of your face at the NCAA tournament. You're giving a quote to the media. You know, so it can be an aid, but if it's used the right way.
Well, I was gonna say, I would imagine for that type of stuff, it's almost more of a detriment at time for the kids, because I'm not sure how. I guess if they're posting their highlights and stuff, that can be good, but they get so wrapped up into commenting on things that.
And it's everything, you know, everything in moderation, right? It is a blessing, you know. Now with NIL, right, guys can benefit off their name, image, and likeness. So our guys are brokering in these deals and these partnerships, you know, but humility is also one of our program core values. So how much self-promotion is too much, right? Are you showing your humility? You know, I think, you know, one of our guys partner with Purple Strategies, Chris Durlack is a friend of the program, a Mason alum, and he's with the company. They have this transformation series, and I think it's so much more than just the NIL partnership. It's actually showing who our guys are.
Right.
And it's an NIL deal, something that they're getting money for, but it's kind of showing how humble our guys are, how hard-working they are, you know. And Jim McKay Chevrolet does some great stuff with the guys as well.
Get them all in, Coach. It's the end of the show. Get them all in now while you're thinking about it.
They're all really good. Yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you again. Season 1 in the books. Looking forward to a great Season 2. I know you guys are going to be out there recruiting and everything else, so thank you for taking the time doing out this.
Thank you to all you guys that came out. Thank you to Mason fans. This has been, it was a, you know, internally disappointing season, the outcome of a lot of our games. You know, 8 of our 11 losses by 1 stinking shot. But man, I'm so excited about where we're going and our fan base. It's so cool to see and hear as it grew throughout this season. I felt like as you guys started to know us, who said something about play style? What do you want us to do differently? Play style guy. You want? Okay, I was just wondering but like, I love it.
He's got some inbound plays for you, Coach.
I want Mason fans to keep being passionate and opinionated and vocalize your feelings, because we love it, we need it. We're gonna build something special here. And thank you guys. If I'm late to this Zoom and we don't get this kid, you blame Bill Rohland.
That's fine. Thanks to all of our staff here at Glory Days. Everybody who's helped us out during the year, during the coaches show as well. SN Mortgage, Glory Days Grill, all of our Mason support staff as well. Coach Kim English, we
Give it up for Bill Rohland. Yeah. Thank you.
We will see you in the fall. Have a great summer. Let's get in the gyms.
Thank you.
That's going to do it. We appreciate everybody hanging out here at Glory Days for the Kim English Coaches Show.